So you've built your perfect community aquarium. You've got schooling tetras, you've got plants, you've got corydoras, you've got all the things, but you're missing that one critical piece, and that's that showfish. So I've got a list of cool things that can go in your tank that aren't gonna just cause total mayhem in there. First up, I've got the honey gourami. This guy only gets about 1.75 inches, 2 inches, looks cool, kind of has that yellowy orange color that's not easy to get in all the schooling fish, so it's gonna stand out. And you can keep one. You can keep a group if you've got a bigger tank of, 30 gallons or more. If you got 20 or less, like, yeah, one kind of does better. They're real laid back, though, and they'll surf around the tank looking for food. Pretty easy to feed, something like magic nuggets crushed up, or flake food, or frozen foods. Anything you're pretty much already feeding the tank is going to do well. You could treat them with some frozen or freeze-dried tubifex worms, something like that. And these guys, wide variety of like temperature and water parameters, so pH, and they're just a staple. We sell so many of them at the store, and it's because they're so easy to recommend. People go, I've got this, and we go, oh, have you seen the honey gourami? And oftentimes they haven't, and they end up taking one home, and they love it. It's got a lot of little personality. It'll come up to you and look at you, and it fits in even nano-sized tanks. So down, maybe you could squeeze it into a 5, but 10 gallons, 20 gallons, all of that work really well. Next up, I've got some ram cichlids. The Bolivian ram, which is kind of an easier cousin, or the German blue ram, which is a little bit more finicky as it wants hotter temperatures. And by hot, I mean 82, 84 degrees, where the Bolivian rams can go down to about 72 degrees. But they're both pretty laid back. They only get really territorial when they're breeding, and they want to cave. And so, like in the tank behind me, I have Bolivian rams, and they've just been an absolute blast to have because they're super laid back. They look good. They're cheap, like $15-ish, and they'll eat just about anything. So, our magic small fish feed, our magic nuggets, our magic bite size, freeze-drieds, flake foods, frozens, they're not too picky, so they kind of go right in. They're not going to dig up all your plants unless you only have one rock or cave there. They might dig right there, but otherwise, they're laid back. And so I would say, as a centerpiece fish, you could do just one. I put 6 in the 150-gallon tank behind me because it's such a big tank. But if you're looking at, that 10, 20, 30-gallon range, one would do you. If you can get a mated pair, if you see it in the store, you can take that home and play with that. And maybe try your hand at rearing some babies, which we have videos on that. But great fish, whether you go with the Bolivian ram, which is kind of the easier introductory level, or you go the German blue ram, which is just the intermediate level, I would say. And both have their strengths, whether it's looks or ease, and just great fish to have around. Next up, the pearl gourami. Now this is a fish that does get bigger, 4 to 6 inches. I mean, I don't know if I've really seen them 6 inches, but 4 or 5 inches for sure. And they do well in kind of that 29 gallon and up. So if you've got that 29, that 40 breeder, that 55, these guys will really thrive. And keeping just one, big fish, they've got the gourami little feelers, so they'll be feeling around the tank with those two little dealy bobs, and they don't really chase down fish, which is nice. They don't dig up plants. They're not a menace. They're inquisitive, and they'll eat, again, just about everything. So community tanks, I love them. They're my passion. Planted community tanks in particular. And, we develop foods for them. And so any of our foods that, feature krill, which all of them do, will do well for these guys. Freeze-dried, like tubifex, brine shrimp, frozen foods will do well. Flake foods will do well. Because they're not picky, they do almost anything. If you put multiple of them together, like if I put them in this big tank back here, you'll get the males sparring a little bit. And so I recommend just grabbing the one and having that nice centerpiece. Again, its color is kind of that yellow and pearlescent on there, and so not common in the schooling fish or the bottom dwellers or all the other stuff you got going on with the mix of plants. At number 4, I've got Apistogramma. So kind of similar to the rams, except these guys come in a kaleidoscope of colors. You've got, some of the super red varieties like the Apistogramma cacatoides, double reds or triple reds or super reds. Or you've got, things like Nisani, you've got things like the Incas, you've got, basically yellows and blues and reds and oranges and all of these guys. And so you can pick them up as pairs a lot of times at stores or just solo. In our store, we sell them. We just have big groups of them. And you could pick out just that male and take it home. You could try to get a boy and a girl to try and breed them. They're not that difficult. They do prefer lower pH if you're going to breed them. So, you know, kind of that 6.6, 6.8, 7. That's a great range to be breeding them in. If you keep them above that, like here, I've tried to breed them and they just won't breed at this fish room for me. At my old house, bred no problem. At the store, they'll breed no problem, but we have a pH right at about 6.8 or so. And so pretty easy. I would say they do like heat, most of them. There are some that can go cooler water, like the Borelli and things like that. But 80 to 82 is kind of that sweet spot we found. And then in my experience at the store and at home, they're prone to kind of getting constipated and bloated up if you feed them way too many kind of frozen bloodworms, real high protein foods in that frozen form. If you're feeding it to them all the time, can be a problem. I haven't ever had a problem feeding dry foods though. So like, you know, like our community pellets or our magic nuggets, something like that. They seem to have enough roughage in there that they pass through. Brine shrimp, frozen, freeze-dried, all that, very good for them. But as a centerpiece, they've got all the personality in the world. It's almost like they got a crazy mohawk going. They're always fired up and ready to go, and definitely will turn heads. Anyone comes over to your house going, what fish is that? I like that one. Last and certainly not least, a classic, a staple in the hobby for the last 50 plus years, angelfish. If you're new to the hobby and you haven't kept angelfish, you're missing out. You can get a lot of personality. You can get a lot of color types. You can get your breeding fix if that's what you want. They get pretty big. You know, the body size on them can get pretty big, and the fins can get even longer depending on the variety you choose. They've got veil tails, they've got ultimate angels out of the wild, they've got just your classic varieties out of the pet store. That's mostly what we sell, and that'd be silvers and kois and red kois and marbles and clowns and Philippine blues. And I recommend at least 29 gallons and up. Not that you won't ever see someone breeding them maybe in a 10 or a 20 when they're small, but at full grown size, those fins do get pretty tall and long. And a 29, I think, is about the minimum to have this as your showpiece fish, where something even bigger like a 55, a 75, a 125 really start making a lot of sense for angelfish. And, you know, being it's a centerpiece, grab one. One won't fight. If you're going to get more than one because you've got a bigger tank, I always recommend one or three or more, never two. Two, you know, if you're buying them when they're quarter size or something like that, you can get two males, and that's not great. A boy and a girl, sometimes the boy will harass the female nonstop to breed. If you get three, even if it's three boys, it splits up the aggression. If you get two boys and a male, two boys and a girl, the two boys will, you know, kind of jockey for who gets the female, and it disperses the aggression. So, but one, you kind of can't go wrong. You just get the one. The one caveat I will say, don't run them with nano-fish. So something like green neon tetras, celestial pearl danios, some of the pseudomogils if you're buying them real small. Those things, if you've got full-grown angelfish and you're introducing those tiny guys to your tank, they can become snacks if you have one of the more kind of hungry, aggressive angels. Not all of them are like that or anything, but wanted to throw that out there so that you don't go, hey, it ate, you know, I bought this great angelfish and I've had it for 5 years, and then I went to the store and neon tetras were on sale and the small ones were, you know, $2 each, and I bought 10, and then I woke up the next morning and they've all been eaten. Don't want you to have that experience, but, you know, feeding them fairly easy. They'll eat flake, they'll eat pellets, they'll eat frozen, they'll eat all the things. Really easy. pH, almost anything, honestly. They've been so adapted to the hobby that you can find someone that's breeding them in really hard water. You can find someone that's, you know, breeding them in really acidic water like ultimate angels out of the wild, and anywhere in between. But they're going to be at your local pet store most likely, and if they're doing well there, chances are your water is fairly close-ish and will do well for you. And so those are my 5 suggestions right now. I've got another video, you know, here if you want to see 5 more. And thanks for clicking on one of our videos. Hopefully you stick around. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if you have, you know, a tank with a centerpiece fish that you like, because that helps everybody.